One of my most requested recipes is always for pineapple upside down cake. And while I think the flavor's there, I'm sorry, I'm not a huge fan of soggy cake and overcooked fruit. What I am gonna do is give you my takes, and while it may be a little bit unorthodox, the cake is gonna be dang tasty and the fruit won't be overcooked. Sound good? Let's bake. So obviously the main reason the cake gets soggy is because the fruit is cooked right into it. Now what we need to do is create a little barrier in between the fruit and the cake so that does not happen. And we're gonna do that with nuts. And in case you were wondering, the nuts that go best with pineapple are gonna be walnuts and pistachios. Now you can use one or the other or a combination of both, but whatever it is, you need 2 cups. So we're gonna do a little combo. We're gonna start with 1.5 cups of walnuts and then a 1/2 cup of pistachios.
Once all that goodness is in there, we're just gonna fix the top of our food processor and then pulse it probably 40 to 50 times. What we're looking for is it to become like a meal, not a fine meal, but a coarse meal. A good way to gauge this is if you pinch it together and it squeezes together a little bit, we are good to go. Let's set it to the side.
So you know I'm all about pulling as much flavor as possible. We can actually do that by toasting up the nuts, and it is a very easy process. So what we're gonna do is just take some parchment paper. We're gonna put it into a 9-inch cake round. It needs to be at least 2 inches deep because this cake will rise. We don't want it falling out everywhere. And then essentially we're just gonna spray with a little non-stick spray on here. And then we're just gonna add the nuts right in there and pack it down with a spoon.
So get all of those nuts right out of there, put them in the bottom of the pan. Now you don't have to go crazy with packing this in, okay? You just wanna spread it out, pat it down just a little bit. Don't pack it in crazy tight till it's like a brick. We don't want that. We're going over to the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It's gonna take about 12 to 13 minutes for these to toast up.
This is great timing because while the nuts are toasting, we can prep up a few more things, beginning with our dry ingredients. So we have 2¼ cups of all-purpose flour. What we're gonna do is add in 1 teaspoon of salt, followed up with a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and then finally just 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Then we're just gonna whisk it until it's combined.
And definitely take a minute or two to whisk this together. We want the baking powder, soda, salt, all that to be infused into the flour. Set it to the side. Now for the wet ingredients. I have a 1/3 cup of whole fat sour milk here. We're gonna add in a 1/2 cup of whole milk, followed up with a 1/2 cup of neutral flavored oil. Any neutral flavored oil will work. And then a 1/3 cup of pineapple juice. Once that's in there, let's whisk it together until it is combined. We're gonna set it to the side. Now, what we wanna do is bring out those toasted nuts. Let's put them on there and wait till they're cool.
And Comies, don't worry about that hot pan with the nuts in it. It's going to cool very, very quickly because in the meantime, we need to cream together our butter and our sugar.
We're gonna do this all in a stand mixer, and I'm gonna add in 1.5 sticks of salted, unsalted butter, fix the paddle attachment, lock it down, crank the speed up to medium. We're gonna let it whip for about 2 minutes. Then at this point, we're gonna come back and add in 1¼ cups of sugar. Once it is mixed in, let's crank that speed up to high. We want this to whip now for about 5 to 7 minutes. We want it to be nice and light and fluffy, just like this. Now at this point, we're gonna turn the speed down. We're gonna add in 2 teaspoons of good vanilla. Then I have 2 total eggs, but we are gonna add them in one at a time. Do not add the next egg until the first one is completely mixed in.
And then of course you have to do it. I know you don't like to do it, but you need to stop and scrape the bowl. Make sure all of the butter is off of the outside of the bowl. You have to have all these ingredients in the cake. You can't be short by 1/4 cup or even a tablespoon. Baking is super precise. So just give the bowl a quick scrape. All right, just finishing up here real quick. Now what we're gonna do is sort of bounce back and forth between dry and wet. So we're gonna go dry, wet, dry, wet, dry. So 3 dry, 2 wet in between. Very, very simple. Drop it back down, low speed, okay? Do not make it too crazy because flour is gonna shoot out everywhere. We're gonna add our first batch in here.
Let's finish up with that first batch of dry ingredients. Then we're gonna add in half of the wet ingredients until mixed in. Go back to the dry ingredients, the second batch, add that in. I know, back and forth, back and forth. Then we'll finish all of the wet ingredients. And then finally, the last thing to go in is the remaining dry ingredients. Whip it until just mixed in on low speed. Let's have a look. Absolutely perfect. This is exactly what we're going for in this cake batter.
Now what we do at this point is simply add the batter right over those chopped toasted nuts. And if you've made pineapple upside down cake before, this batter may look a little wetter than the one you're normally making. And the reason is, don't forget, we have those nuts on the bottom. we have to compensate for that taking up some moisture. So that's why this batter is a little wetter, but I promise we're gonna be good.
Then we're just going to use that rubber spatula to smooth everything out. If you've been following me for a little bit, when I make cakes, I like them to be a little bit bigger than maybe the average normal is. So this should be about an inch or a half inch bigger than a normal pineapple upside down cake. You know what? Totally fine with me. Once it's smooth, we're going over to the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to take in between an hour and 15 and an hour and 20 minutes for this to cook.
Now we definitely have some time while the cake is in the oven, but don't go too far because halfway through the cooking process, we are gonna come back, we are gonna put some foil over top. It's okay if it's just lightly tinted. This is gonna help to make sure the inside is cooked and the top doesn't brown too well. We'll finish off cooking, we'll take it out, we'll put it on a rack, let it cool for about 20 minutes, and then in between that cooling time, it's pineapple time.
Let's take our cake out on a rack. Let's have a look. Take the foil off. Boom. Beautiful. You know what? If some of the cake batter sticks to the foil, so what? Because you know what? We're going to flip it over. This isn't the side that we're going to serve to everybody, so no worries.
So if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I try to use fresh ingredients whenever possible. So why not use fresh pineapple in my pineapple upside down cake? So there are a couple things you do need to do though. First, we're just going to slice off the end really quick. And then you're gonna need this sort of pineapple core thing. You can get it at, honestly, on Amazon or anywhere. It's very easy. If not, what you'll need to do is just slice it in half, remove the core, and then just slice it in decorative wedges. But this works very cool.
All you do is twist the pineapple. Hold that core straight and twist the pineapple around in a circular motion while pressing down on the core. That is it.
And you'll start to feel it when you get to the bottom because it will really just kind of stop. So you pull it up, and beautiful, look. Take the top off, turn it upside down. Look at that. Beautiful little rings. Now we're gonna slice these into individual rings so we can use them to decorate.
And just slice down until you get a nice little pineapple round. Go all the way down this whole little roll. We're gonna place it on a sheet tray lined with parchment paper. Then what you want to do is really pat this dry very, very well with a paper towel so that it doesn't stick when we sear it up.
And real quick, maybe you don't have access to fresh pineapple, maybe they're not in season, or maybe you just have one of these lying around. No problem. Okay, please use it. It's totally cool. You know, I just want to have the freshest pineapple I can for a homemade pineapple upside down cake. Now, let's caramelize these up.
In a rondeau, large frying pan or a non-stick skillet, whatever you have, over medium heat, we're going to add in 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. And then just as soon as it's melted, we are going to add in our pineapple rounds. We have about 8 or 9 here. That should be plenty to cover our cake. Now, this is only going to take about 2 to 3 minutes to sear to get a nice caramelization. But as soon as they're in there to help that sear, we're going to add in a 1/4 cup of packed light brown sugar. After that 2 to 3 minute mark, let's flip it over. We're only going to cook it for a minute on the other side. Yes, that brown is perfect. If you got a little bit more, a little bit less, no problem as long as it's not overcooked. So 2 to 3 minutes on one side, 1 minute on the other side. Set them to the side on a plate. Go back over to that pan. There's a lot of goodness in there. We're going to add in another 1/4 cup of packed light brown sugar, followed up with a 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. We're going to make a tasty caramel out of all this goodness. Whisk it together until it is completely combined. Make sure there are no brown sugar chunks in there. This is over medium heat again. Whisk it until it is smooth like a normal caramel sauce. Take it off the heat, set it to the side for a little trick. Oh my gosh, you're going to love this. We're going to add in 2 tablespoons of brandy. Another option would be rum, would be very good. Whisk it in there until combined and do your best not to drink this sauce. It's that good.
Now we are definitely rounding third base. Let's bring this thing home. Now, when it comes to cherries, I obviously use fresh pineapple. Why not use fresh cherries? If you want to use the old Marciano, totally fine to do as well. For the fresh cherries, what you would do, obviously remove the stem. If you have one of these cherry cores, oh my gosh, these are absolutely incredible. All you do is push it through and the seed pops out. Then at this point, once we do all these, we'll just slice them in half.
So once you remove the seeds of the cherries, you really only need 4 or 5 cherries. We're not going to need that many. Just slice them in half. Doesn't matter which way. These are going to fit perfect right in the center of our pineapples.
Alrighty, total moment of truth here. Let's flip this over and invert it. It's been resting for about 25 minutes or so. It's a little hot, so... Oh! All right. I can already tell it came out. That looks all right to me. Now, is this a little bit different than the normal classical nature that I usually adhere to with every recipe? Yes, but I also don't want waterlogged cake from overcooked fruit juices. No. I use a little bit of culinary intuition, things I liked about the cake, things I don't like, and how I made it to the way that I want it. Yes, it's different. It still tastes like pineapple upside down cake, and it's still delicious. It's all about these cooking and baking techniques. It will always elevate your everyday cooking. Now, let me show you how to plate this beauty up.
And just an FYI, you can eat this cake warm or cool it down even more, up to you. I like it a little bit warm. We are gonna load up the top with as many pineapples as we can. I think I got 8 on here. Next, we are gonna drizzle on and generously drizzle on all that caramel. Don't worry, it's not gonna seep through. We got that beautiful crust layer of toasted nuts on top. It is gonna protect our cake, and that caramel is way too good to waste, my friends. Then go back around and add our half cherries right to the center of those pineapple rounds. Looks absolutely gorgeous. And of course, for the moment of truth, let's take a nice big slice and see what we got. Yeah, dude, it is just so good. Light, fluffy, tender, loaded with pineapple flavor. For me, I like a little whipped cream on the side of my pineapple cake.
I am 100% positive. I'm sure you're going to slay me for this one, but you know what? I always come through for you in the flavor department. I'm telling you, the cake is moist, tender, delicious, not waterlogged with juices, and the brandy caramel on top. Oh, it's so good. And if you want another cake that is absolutely delicious, definitely check out my funfetti cake. It will take you back to your childhood birthdays. No joke. Got a great recipe video. I'll see you on there.